To the casual observer, Barnes. But appearances can be deceptive. America's largest bookseller is in trouble. A quick chat with the customers suggests one reason why. "I get a coffee, take a seat, read the latest magazines," said a man who gave his name as Buddy. Asked if he planned to purchase the car and engineering titles he was holding, Buddy replied flatly, "No, perhaps this is what it means to be a bricks-and-mortar retailer in 2018. It's a feel-good customer experience and a showcase for online purchasing, but the sound of cash registers ringing? Not so much." Last week, Barnes. It's depressing to imagine that more than 600 Barnes. But the death of Barnes. Sales have been on the slide for 11 years, even online sales have fallen. Over the past 5 years, the company has lost more than $1 billion in value. Dozens of stores have closed. A shakeup in February resulted in the loss of 1,800 full-time jobs. If Barnes' closure is also likely to hurt publishers, who will become even more heavily reliant on Amazon. Big swaths of America will be left without a major bookstore. It's not that Barnes & Noble hasn't tried to innovate, it's been very creative in staying alive and surviving in today's Walmart and Amazon-dominated society, said one employee, pointing to games and toys as one area of expansion. The company also pushed into technology, spending heavily to launch and market the e-reader to compete with Amazon's Kindle. Bruce Springsteen promotes his Born to Run book at Barnes. Photograph, Storm, Everett, Rex, Shutterstock, but arguably innovation is where Barnes. Other big booksellers have tackled Amazon's onslaught by doing precisely the opposite, going back to basics and putting the books first. Take UK giant Waterstones, which was acquired last month for an undisclosed sum by the hedge fund Elliott Advisors. Chief Executive James Daunt told The Guardian the company was succeeding by going back to good old-fashioned bookselling, and is very much in expansion mode. Analyst Neil Saunders of Global Data Retail said one difference between Waterstones and Barnes. It's one thing, he says, to attract high street foot traffic, another to get customers to drive to a mall for a book. Especially when America's malls too are being swept away by the Amazon effect. People may drop in for a browse, but they won't make a dedicated trip to a bookstore, Saunders says. They don't have the need and they don't have the time. The way people shop changed, and that's been detrimental for Barnes. It's reported that the company lost $1.3 billion on the device, hoping to replicate Amazon's success selling content for the Kindle. That was a massive distraction for Barnes. If you're only using it to sell books, and there are a lot of other competitors in the market, it's not a sensible strategy. The company withdrew the device in the UK in 2016. Norpke continued, "Does it make sense to add new merchandise? The stores just look like an enormous Aladdin's cave of all sorts of random products, including departments selling CDs and DVDs that are never crowded. The stores themselves are too large for what they need and in the wrong locations." In a letter to shareholders, including the company's 76-year-old founder and chairman, Leonard Riggio, activist investor Thomas Sandel warned that at around $500 million, Barnes. Hillary Clinton signs copies of her book What Happened at Barnes. Photograph, John Lemparski, Wire Image. The company, he argued, should be taken private and become part of a larger business, just as Whole Foods became part of Amazon. Is the crowd in Barnes? This venue is host to some of the biggest book launches in the country. It was the first stop on Hillary Clinton's book tour for her memoir What Happened. Michael Ondaatje and Michael Pollan will read there later this month. Manhattan is not a failing mall, but customers everywhere still seem to want somewhere to read, browse and buy a coffee. Designer Carl Barnett said he'd noticed that the store could use an update, but he still loved to visit. The key is to offer an experience. A lot of stores are suffering, but it's all about the mood and customer service, and I've never not had a good experience here, he said. Now if only he'd buy a book.